In the clip presented today on my YouTube channel, I will talk about the 50 greatest inventions and innovations since the wheel. Stay like this, but stay with me in the next few minutes to be up to date. Of course, everyone has their own opinion on this matter, but wouldn't it be interesting to find out what people who, for decades, work in the field of technologies of all kinds, learn about technologies, and teach others? Think about it. Study the evolution technologies throughout history. The American publication The Atlantic took the initiative to gather a group of 12 experts, scientists, engineers, historians, businessmen, and ask them to compile, each one, a list of 25 inventions or innovations that they consider the more important. The only condition was that the respective successes were subsequent to the invention of the wheel, which happened approx. 6,000 years and so important for the further evolution of technologies and human civilization, in general, that the wheel has come to symbolize, in the collective mentality, the very invention, the revolutionary idea that fundamentally changes the technological universe until then, and gives an unprecedented impetus progress. Here are the results of this exciting exercise, which give us an idea of how people understand the world and its evolution, the past, present and even the future world. Analyzing the list provided by the participants, weighing the value given to each invention or innovation, based on their order, James Fallows, the author of the article in The Atlantic, synthesized the information into a more comprehensive list of 50 technological inventions considered the most important in history. The list is obviously very far from being exhaustive, as he himself says. Compiling a list of only 50 such successes means excluding another 50,000 from the list. Countless are the inventions and innovations that have changed the life of mankind, and 50 of them, in the course of hundreds of thousands of years of evolution, seems little. But, as limited and inevitably subjective as it is, the result is no less interesting. Here is the list, enriched with comments from the author and some of the 12 experts who were asked to participate in the project. 1. Printing. 1430s. Nominated by 10 of the 12 participants. The invention of movable type printing in 15th century Europe allowed easy and cheap access to knowledge, thus its rapid enrichment and spread. 2. Electricity. The end of the 19th century. Modern life is unimaginable without it. Countless other inventions would never have appeared if electricity hadn't existed first, as a source of energy available to everyone. 3. Penicillin. 1928. This first man-made synthetic antibiotic opened a new era in medicine. Once incurable diseases became easily curable thanks to antibiotics. 4. Semiconductor electronic equipment. Mid-20th century. They represent the physical foundation of the virtual world. Without them, we would not have the means of mass communication that we have today. 5. Optical lenses. 13th century. Thanks to them, the microscope and the telescope could be invented, but the contribution of lenses to the progress of mankind is not limited to that. Glasses, for example, represented a huge factor of progress. As the author of the article says, they allowed the increase of people's intelligence quotient, considerably increasing the number of those who could, or could learn, to read and write. 6. Paper. 2nd century. Support of writing and images. It contributed decisively to the dissemination of information and to the increase of the number of literate people. 7. The internal combustion engine. End of the century, the 19th. It replaced the steam engine in the most advantageous way, being smaller and more efficient than it. 8. Vaccination. 1796. This year, British Dr. Edward Jenner developed an early form of vaccination, using a virus from a cattle disease, inoculated into humans. It protected them from smallpox, produced by infection with a related virus, a disfiguring disease with high mortality. But vaccination only took off in 1885, when Louis Pasteur invented the rabies vaccine. 9. The Internet. 1960s. The Internet, in the sense of a network of computers that could share and jointly process information, appeared earlier than many of its contemporary users believe. The forerunner of the Internet dates back to 1965, when the Defense Advanced Research Projects Agency, DARPA, within the U.S. Department of Defense, created the first network of interconnected computers, called ARPANET. Through the continuous expansion of this network, today's Internet was reached, the infrastructure that is at the foundation of the digital age. 10. The steam engine. 1712. It set trains, ships and machine tools in motion, making possible the flourishing of the Industrial Revolution. 11. Nitrogen fixation. 1918. It is an invention as little known as it is important. The German chemist Fritz Haber developed a process for the synthesis of ammonia, which allowed industrial production, through the Haber-Bosch process, of nitrogen fertilizers, one of the defining elements of the Green Revolution, see No. 22, which impressively increased harvests and saved many hundreds of millions of people from death. 12. Sewage installations, mid-century the 19th. It represents one of the major causes of the increase in life expectancy. We Europeans live today, on average, a good few decades longer than in 1880. 13. Refrigeration, 1850s. It has profoundly changed the way we eat and contributed to the improvement of public health. The invention is important not only from the food perspective. Medicines and vaccines can now be transported over long distances and stored for a long time, thanks to this discovery, saving millions of lives everywhere in the world. 14. Gunpowder, 10th century. Perhaps it is an invention that we would rather not have known, because its contribution to the killing of fellow men and to the tragic increase in the effectiveness of war is well known. But this explosive also had other uses, for more peaceful purposes, for example, in the construction of roads or mining operations. Anyway, it is an invention whose importance cannot be denied, if we look at it from the perspective of its impact on human civilization. 15. The airplane, 1903. It has profoundly transformed the economy, enormously increasing the speed with which people and goods can be transported. It also transformed the way war is fought, but it also changed the way we perceive the world in which we live. 16. The personal computer, 1970s. It has tremendously enhanced people's ability to communicate and learn. 17. Compass, 12th century. By enabling orientation even in the absence of visual landmarks, off the ocean, for example, it enabled longer and longer journeys and helped us discover the world. 18. The automobile, late 19th century. It transformed people's daily life, human culture and civilization. 19. Industrial steelmaking, 1850s. It became the foundation of modern industry, and remains as important today as it was a century and a half ago. 20. The contraceptive pill, 1960. It produced a real social revolution, one of the strongest in history. 21. Nuclear fission, 1939. He endowed man with new abilities to destroy, but also to create. 22. The Green Revolution, mid-20th century. Combining technologies such as the application of chemical fertilizers, number 11, with the scientific improvement of plant varieties. The Green Revolution enormously increased food production globally. Norman Borlaug, the father of the Green Revolution, is often said to have saved 1 billion people from death. 23. The sextant, 1757. With his help, astronomical observations could be made and maps drawn up, which helped us to know and understand the planet and the universe better. 24. The telephone, 1876. It allowed the human voice to be heard from thousands of kilometers away, revolutionizing communication. 25. Alphabetical writing, first millennium BCE. With its appearance, information became more accessible and easier to find. According to the author's opinion, it would have allowed societies that practiced it to surpass those that used ideographic writing. 26. The telegraph, 1837. It spectacularly increased the speed with which information could be transmitted, as Joel Mokyr, professor of economics and history at Northwestern University, one of the participants in the project proposed by the Atlantic, says. Before the telegraph, information could not travel faster than a man on horseback. 27. Mechanical clock, 15th century. It quantified time and marked the beginning of a drastic transformation in the way people organized their daily existence. 28. The radio, 1906. It was a demonstration of the exceptional capacity of this category of devices, the electronic means of mass communication, to spread ideas and standardize culture. 29. Photograph, beginning of the century. XIX. It has profoundly transformed professions such as journalism, but also art and culture, as well as the way we see ourselves. 30. Plow with tiller, S.U.S.C.R.I.B.E. Unlike older models, the tiller plow not only cuts the furrow, but also turns it over, suppressing weed growth and bringing nutrients from the soil to the surface. It seems like a modest improvement on an old tool, but in fact its impact was extraordinary. Its introduction greatly increased the productivity of the land, which greatly influenced the economy and thus the entire civilization. The author of the article places this invention in the 18th century, but it was used even before that. In the 18th century, however, the design of these plows was considerably improved. During this period, plow models with a much lighter shaft and which could be produced in large numbers in factories were invented and became widespread. They became very popular and contributed a lot to the progress of agriculture. in Europe and America North. 31. Archimedes' screw, 3rd century BC. The famous ancient scholar is credited with inventing one of the first water-pumping devices, a sort of rotating corkscrew that pushed water up a tube. The invention improved irrigation technology and is still used today, for example in wastewater treatment plants. 32. Cotton ginning machine, 1793. Invented in the USA, it allowed the mechanized separation of cotton fibers from the seeds of the plant, an activity that was previously done manually and was very laborious. As a result, the cotton fabric industry became much more productive and, of course, the demand for raw material became greater. As a sad consequence, the phenomenon of slavery grew and consolidated on the cotton plantations of the southern United States of America. 33. Pasteurization, 1863. One of the first practical applications of the theory of infectious germs, developed by Pasteur. Pasteurization, a method of preserving liquid foods by subjecting them to high temperatures, thus stopping the multiplication of bacteria, is considered one of the most effective human interventions in the field of public health in the entire history of humanity. 34. Gregorian calendar, 1582. He corrected the older Julian calendar, achieving a better synchronization of the progress of human civilization with the natural rhythms determined by the astronomical cycles. 35. Oil refining, mid-19th century. Today, the world economy is still based, to a great extent, on oil, through the processing of which thousands of products of daily use are obtained. 36. Steam turbine, 1884. Although less publicized than steam engines, steam turbines are still today one of the pillars on which the energy industry rests. Approx. 80% of the electricity produced in the world is obtained with their help. 37. Cement, 1st millennium BC. From the oldest versions of binders, made of lime and sand, to modern cement, this type of material is, literally, at the foundation of civilization. 38. Scientific improvement of plant varieties, 1920s. Although people began, consciously or not, to select plants since the beginning of agriculture, it was only in the 20th century that scientists rediscovered the works, dating back to the 19th century, of the botanist Gregor Mendel, the father of genetics, and thus began to understand plant genetics, the basis of any effective breeding process. Later, based on these discoveries, the study of human genetics could also be undertaken, in which such spectacular progress was registered. 39. Oil drilling, 1859. It fuels the modern economy, profoundly influences geopolitics and modifies the planet's climate. 40. Navigation with sails, 4th millennium BCE. Like the plane, no. 15. But long before it, it transformed the field of transport, war and our vision of the world. 41. The rocket, 1926. By means of rockets we have reached farther from the Earth than by any other means. In fact, as George Dyson, another participant in the project, a specialist in the history of technology, says, the rocket is the only means by which we have been able to leave the planet, so far. 42. Paper money, 11th century. They represented an important step towards the abstraction of money, characteristic of the world economy at the moment. 43. Abacus, 3rd millennium BCE. An early calculating tool, the abacus was one of the first devices designed to aid human intelligence. 44. Air conditioning, 1902. It may seem surprising, but it is one of the inventions that greatly helped the development of the economy in countries where temperatures are high, in certain seasons or permanently. In the last half-century, air conditioning, says the author of the article, has played a major role in expanding the population, raising its standard of living and improving working conditions in the southern states of the USA, and now it plays a similar role in countries such as China, India, Arab countries, etc. 45. Television, the first half of the century 20th. According to an already established expression, he brought the whole world into people's homes. 46. Anesthesia, 1846. One of the first substances used in this sense by Western surgeons was ether, whose effects were presented in public demonstrations. As James Fallows very plastically says, with the introduction of anesthesia, surgery began to differ from torture. 47. Queel, 2nd millennium BCE. One of the experts asked to participate in the project, Leslie Berlin, specialist in the history of business and technology at Stanford University, believes that the invention of nails extended life by giving people the ability to build shelters. 48. Lever, 3rd millennium BCE. An apparently childishly simple idea, but extraordinarily effective. It is believed that the ancient Egyptians made full use of this simple and brilliant invention for lifting for 7 Quil, 2nd millennium BCE. One of the experts asked to participate in the project, Leslie Berlin, specialist in the history of business and technology at Stanford University, believes that the invention of nails extended life by giving people the ability to build shelters. 48 Lever, 3rd millennium BCE, an apparently childishly simple idea, but extraordinarily effective. It is believed that the ancient Egyptians made full use of this simple and brilliant invention for the construction of their famous pyramids. 49 Assembly line, conveyor belt, 1913. It transformed the world's economy from artisanal workshops to factories mass-producing consumer goods. 50 Agricultural combine, 1930s. It mechanized field work, giving people the freedom to take care of other types of activities. Once again, these assessments are completely subjective, influenced, unconsciously, but inevitably, by the nationality of those who make them, by everyone's preferences, by the inspiration of the moment even, as well as by the times. A survey of the same kind would have shown otherwise 100 years ago, or even 20 years ago. Missing from this list are many other achievements of science and technology, which others might have included: GPS systems, on which transport and communications depend so much today, the concept of the number 0, which one of the participants, Padme's Re Warrior, director responsible for technology and strategy at Cisco, proposed, by the way, on his own list, and many others. Another point worth emphasizing is the ambivalent character, let's say, of many of these inventions, innovations. They can do both good and bad. Sometimes their negative side doesn't show from the beginning, but it becomes obvious along the way. If you look at antibiotics, insecticides, means of transport, every time they solve a problem, a new one appears, says Joel Mokyr. But that creates, doesn't it, a permanent need for solutions, which stimulate the emergence of new inventions and innovations. It's called progress.